Time is the greatest equalizer of man, but not all time is created equal. I've been living in the Netherlands for a little over 9 months, and one of the biggest things that I've noticed from having lived here for those 9 months is that time is perceived differently in the Netherlands than it is back home in the US. And in this video, I'm going to explain why time works differently in the Netherlands. Now, just to preface this, I'm not saying that there aren't 24 hours in a day or 7 days in a week here in the Netherlands. However, the way that time is constructed, how that time is used and viewed, is different than it is back home. That said, the first difference between Dutch time and American time is that the Netherlands uses what Americans, like myself, know as military time. What is military time? Military time is where instead of going from 12 to 12 and then repeating that, you go from 0 to 24. So at any given time, you might ask somebody, hey, what time is it? And I guess they'll tell you it's 6 o'clock p.m., but if you look at the clock, it'll say 18. And you have to take that extra second of time to do the math and figure out what that actually means. Now, truthfully, I don't really know why the Netherlands uses military time. I think, as a matter of fact, that most countries outside of the US use military time, which is why military time is military time. It's the international standard, therefore the military uses it as well. But here in the Netherlands, they use military time. So that's something to keep in mind. But then at the same time, if you look at the regular clocks, the ones with the hands, I forgot what they're called, I think analog clocks, those don't go to 24, those only go to 12. So it's really only the digital clocks that do that. I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure whose idea it was sometime in the past to count to 24. It's 18 o'clock, it's 19 o'clock, 1900 hours, I don't know. But here in the Netherlands, that is what they use, at least for the digital clocks. Now, the next difference between Dutch time and American time, and this is something that I actually want you to verify for yourself depending on where you are. What I want you to do before I tell you this is I want you to open your phone. Unless you're watching this on your phone, then you can wait until after the video. But if you're watching this on a computer or TV, grab your phone right now, and I want you to open the calendar app on your phone. And then what I want you to do is I want you to look at the first day on the left side of the calendar. In the US, and if you're an American who has an American phone, your calendar will start on Sunday. If you don't believe me, then like I said, you can confirm this for yourself. Look in the comments. As a matter of fact, I want you to comment what day your calendar starts on in your phone. Because this right here blew my mind. I remember when I first moved here, my girlfriend and I were talking about the start of the week. I don't remember what the conversation was about, but basically, we found out that her phone starts the week on Monday, whereas mine starts the week on Sunday. And again, I find this to be relatively mind-blowing because the way my whole entire week, and by extension my life, is structured is that Sunday is the first day of the week. Therefore, I approach Sunday as my new beginning day, if you will. But for her, it's Monday. And for people from the Netherlands, it is also Monday. I don't know if it's like this in other countries. I'd imagine that a lot of this has to do with the religious background of the Netherlands. But then, on that note, the US has a religious background as well. The US is not an entirely secular country. As a matter of fact, every day we said the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God, indivisible, so on and so forth. So I don't think that the lack of religion is the reason why, because the US, to my knowledge, is every bit as religious in its roots as the Netherlands. But for whatever reason, the Netherlands and probably most of Europe starts the week on Monday rather than Sunday. Now, the next way that Dutch time is different than American time is the importance of punctuality, being on time. Being on time is very important to Dutch people. Now, of course, you can't speak about Dutch people as a monolith, but I'm speaking in generalities based on my own experiences. Being on time is much more highly valued here than it was back home in the US. At least within my social circle. With my friends, if you're on time, you're early. If you show up at the time that you agreed to meet with one of my friends, you are going to be there alone for a cool 15 to 30 minutes, maybe even an hour. So, because of that, I've gotten used to being late. Because if I'm late, that means that I'm on time. In the Netherlands, it does not work that way. I won't go too deep into detail about how I found this out, because I don't want to put anybody on blast or anything. But just know that here in the Netherlands, punctuality is important. At least more important than it is back home in the US, and from what I understand, more important than in a lot of South American countries where they have more of that carefree attitude and punctuality just isn't that important. Now, speaking of being on time and being early or late, the next way that Dutch time is different, or at the very least, the next way that Dutch time is perceived differently and used differently, is that Dutch people, from what I've observed, have a tendency to sleep earlier and wake up earlier. This right here has probably been one of the biggest culture shocks for me in particular. I think primarily because of the household that I was raised in, where my dad worked from home for pretty much most of my childhood, and it wasn't uncommon for both of us to just be up until 3 or 4 in the morning and then sleep in until whenever we wanted. But here in the Netherlands, that's just not the norm. It's just not the norm. I noticed that even on weekends, when people don't have to wake up early to go to work, you still hear people outside. People here just like to wake up early, and I think the reason why this is, I literally never thought about this until just now, but I think the reason why people here like to wake up so much earlier is because in the winter, the sun goes down earlier. So, I mean, if the sun's going down at 4:45 p.m., or, my bad, what would that be? 16:45 hours, I don't know. When the sun's going down at that time, it does make sense to not sleep in until 1 p.m. like I do. But I'm the type of person who, it doesn't really matter what the external circumstances are. My schedule is my schedule. I'm gonna sleep late, I'm gonna wake up late, because that's just the way I operate. But that sort of schedule isn't really the most compatible with the Netherlands as a society, because society here is structured around the notion that people here sleep earlier and wake up earlier. What I mean by that is stores tend to close a lot earlier, and this can put a lot of undue stress and pressure to get to the store on time, where in the US that simply wasn't a problem because the grocery stores closed at what, 10, 11 o'clock? Before COVID, Walmart was 24 hours, 24/7. I'd just go there at 3 o'clock in the morning, just browse around, and then leave. But even to this day, stores like 7-Eleven, Quick Trip, Racetrack, all of these little convenience stores, the gas stations, all of that, that's all open. That's open 24 hours. Here, I have yet to see anything like that. I have yet to see anything that's open for 24 hours except for the gym. Except for the gym. The gym is the only place that I've seen that's open 24 hours. There are no convenience stores. As a matter of fact, the other day, my girlfriend and I went to Albert Heijn, and we found out that it was closed. We found out that it was closed, and this is the Albert Heijn that we rely upon because they close at 10 o'clock. All the other ones close at 8 o'clock, no matter what day it is, even on Saturdays. Doesn't make sense to me, but whatever, that's the hours that they choose to operate. So we show up at around 9:15-ish, something like that, just to find out that they're closed because they're having an employee party. Now, me personally, I began to panic because I realized, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to eat today. I'm not going to be able to eat dinner. I don't have any food. Luckily, there was a pizza place that was still open that closed at, I think, 10 o'clock. But the point is, in the US, that sort of thing would not happen because stores tend to stay open later. And I've gotten a lot of flack for saying that it doesn't make sense that stores close earlier here than they do back home, because you could literally just move the operating hours, but I'm not even going to get into that because that's not what this video is about. However, to piggyback off of that idea, the next way that Dutch people perceive time differently than American people is how they perceive family time and the importance of family time. I've noticed that family as a whole, the family unit, seems to be much more intact here in the Netherlands than it was back home. Now again, just like all my other videos talking about the Netherlands and the US, I'm speaking in generalities. There are broken families here in the Netherlands, and there are very tight-knit families in the US. However, the prioritization of family time seems to be very, very important here, where sitting at the table and eating together is very important. Keyword, prioritization. They prioritize family time above all else. They prioritize it over convenience even. Hence, stores closing earlier so that the employees can enjoy more family time. Again, I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole different discussion for a whole different day. But the fact is, Dutch people definitely seem to prioritize family time much more than Americans do. And this is a good thing. This is really objectively a good thing. Prioritizing family time is good. But it's something to keep in mind if you're going to move here, that convenience comes second to that, which again is objectively a good thing. Now, the next way that Dutch people perceive time differently, or the next way that time works differently in the Netherlands, is the age of things. The age of things here in the Netherlands, the buildings, the roads, everything here is old. Not everything, but a lot of what you see here is old. And to illustrate my point, what I want you to do is I want you to go to your Google Maps, go to the street view anywhere in Amsterdam. I can't speak to other places because I haven't seen old footage of other places, but go anywhere in Amsterdam and just browse around for a little bit. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go on YouTube, well, after this video at least, I want you to go on YouTube and I want you to look up a video of the Netherlands, of Amsterdam in particular, in, let's say, the 1950s or 1960s. And you'll find ample footage. And what you'll notice is that other than the cars, it pretty much looks the exact same. The buildings are the same, the roads are the same. Maybe there are a few new buildings or whatever, but the point is, it hasn't really changed that much. That was one of the biggest, just mind-blowing moments for me being in the Netherlands, was seeing old footage and realizing that, wow, it pretty much looks the exact same. And another mind-blowing moment that I had, my girlfriend and I, along with one of her friends, were in Utrecht. I don't know if I said that correctly, but we were in Utrecht maybe a few weeks ago. And we saw this castle there. If you're from Utrecht, then maybe you know what I'm talking about. There's this castle there that was literally built, and I am not bullshitting you. I solemnly swear, this castle was built in the 1300s. The 1300s. Bro, the US wasn't even a country at that time, and there was literally a castle from that period that lasted all the way until now. I want you to really think about that. It is 2024 at the time of me filming this video. The 1300s. You literally won't find anything in the US that old because the country itself is not that old. In Dallas, where I'm from, most of the buildings that you see were really built in the last 40 or 50 years. So, to see buildings that are older than the country that I am from was definitely one of the biggest culture shocks as far as my perception of time. Because when you grow up in the US and you grow up primarily around these new construction developments in a place like Dallas, the 1300s is just a concept in your mind. You can't really think about the 1300s beyond your imagination. You can't really perceive it in a palpable way because there's nothing in the country that is that old. Maybe trees or something like that, I don't know, but the 1300s, you won't see any pieces of actual culture from that time. Whereas here in the Netherlands, that's pretty much the norm. That's the norm. And I think that also speaks to the level of quality of craftsmanship of a lot of the infrastructure here, but different discussion for a different day. The point is, things here in the Netherlands are old. They are old, they're not necessarily bad or beaten. A lot of things are kept up very well, but they are old. And in my opinion, this has to change the way that you perceive time as a person. When you understand that the 1300s were a real period of human history that actually existed, where people walked up and down the same streets as you. In the US, you literally can't understand that. You can't comprehend it because we don't have anything from the 1300s. But here in the Netherlands, and probably in most of Europe, that is the norm.